Welcome back to another video. In this one, we're gonna be hopping in the boat with Joel Nelson. He's gonna share some really good information for chasing walleyes in the early summer period, which we're square in the middle of right now. So buckle up. Without further ado, I'm gonna toss it off to Joel.
Today we're talking early season tips for nice fish like this as well as eaters, because let's face it, your shoreline bites, the stuff you were doing for opener, probably isn't working anymore. So you need to start thinking about what you're gonna do next. Let me get her back quickly.
Oh, there she goes.
So when fish like that happen, it's chaos, but so often it's part of a bigger plan. And in this case, we had staged a few areas that we wanted to fish. All of them were deeper than those shoreline bites. Again, you're used to fishing those cabbage lines, those areas of developing weeds. Right now, those fish are moving offshore. We're fishing sunken humps. We're fishing islands and off the deeper edge, especially when they're getting wind. I'm really trying to focus what I'm doing away from shore. And that's a key part of the focus this time of year. And typically, not only am I thinking deeper, I'm thinking, differing baits. I'm trying to move away from jig and minnow presentations to maybe jigs and leeches, jigs and crawlers, or to be honest, some eye candy, because plastics really start to shine once water temps hit that 55, 60 degree and beyond mark. That's really where it's at. I can fish more efficiently and I can fish more effectively that way because I'm covering a lot more water. I can still target some deeper areas with heavier jigs, especially the tungsten ones. I can fish quick. I can put more baits in front of fish. And that's really the key to my strategy this time of year because, hey, it's popping off. There's bait fish that are growing up. The system's really getting going. The water temps are elevating. Fish's metabolisms are really starting to get popping. So it's one of those instances where if you're fishing too slow, if you're fishing too methodically, maybe you're missing the mark. So again, I'm looking for wind-cooked bites. I'm getting away from the shore. I'm getting out to those mid-lake structures and areas, and I'm trying to fish quickly, letting my electronics do the work. In this case, yeah, I had a bobber out, but I'm power fishing. I'm literally trying to track down fish on live and constantly positioning baits to new fish. I'm not trying to beat on the same fish again and again. Early season, a lot of those fish were concentrated. Right now, those fish are spreading out. And your strategy has to revolve around getting more baits in front of more fish. Again, that's the way you're gonna get bit this summer. That's how you're gonna catch more fish. And I find it to be a wholly more fun way of fishing than constantly trying to get those same fish to eat by sucking up to them.
All right, next up, Joel's gonna break down his bobber fishing setup, which is actually what he used to catch that big walleye in that first clip.
So this bobber setup that fish was caught on is really part of a 1-2 approach where I'm fishing power, I'm fishing aggressive. And even with this bobber, I'm not letting it sit. I'm not casting it out and just letting it bake. I'm spending a lot more time looking for fish to toss this thing out at. And at kind of the terminal end, I've got one of these tungsten short shank jigs, which is really for me kind of a secret weapon because I can keep this thing small. I can keep it really compact. And the fish then tends to focus maybe just on the color and the contrast in the water on that jig. But more importantly, it focuses on the bait that I'm using. And again, I talked about switching over. This isn't minnow season anymore. My rule of thumb, I've said it many times, fish with minnows when it hurts to fish with them. When it's cold to dip your hands in the bucket, fish with minnows. It's not that time of year anymore. Now it's leech season, it's crawler season. That's what I'm tipping these kinds of live bait presentations with. And whether it's on this slightly more finesse version with the bobber or whether I'm switching over and more power jig fishing, if those fish on live are roaming, they're actively chasing down baits, I don't need to use a bobber. Then a jig, just a straight jig with no float, tends to be the most effective way to catch them. But when they need it soaked in their face a little bit longer, when you really have to get some fish to eat, because hey, let's face it, there's days like that, that's when a slip bobber setup is still a really good way of doing it. But again, I'm not casting it out there and letting it sit for 20 minutes while I mess with something else out in the boat. I'm actively fishing all of these presentations because the key right now is if you're not on fish, go find them. And if the ones you're finding aren't eating, go find some more because it's a really good time of year to get out in the boat and catch a lot of fish.
Now Joel is gonna share a few key locations that you can check out on your favorite walleye lake. These are the types of spots that are almost always holding walleyes this time of year.
The three primary kinds of spots I'm targeting when I say offshore, I'm talking about first and foremost weed lines. There's so many weed fish in almost every lake. These are resident fish. I'm convinced they live there almost year long. And now we're talking about weed edges, a little bit deeper, right? They've come off the bottom. They're not little 6-inch shoots just starting to get started. These are fully fledged weed beds on flats. So I'm fishing the outer edge of them quite often. Inside turns, points on them. Weed lines are number one in my book. Number two, a lot of times I'm looking for deep saddles. These are areas where fish can loaf and they end up concentrating movement. If you think about deer hunting, you think about a funnel, a pinch point, something that concentrates movement. That's exactly what a saddle is. Fish are moving often from deep water up to shallow, and they use these little troughs to get from point A to point B. So you're just in a high likelihood traffic location, a spot where fish just like to move through. My third spot that I really like to focus on when I get good wind is deep traditional rock structure, those big bars, those big reefs, because even if they top out at like 8 feet, typically what you'll have is 14, 18, 22 feet, somewhere down that break, a secondary shelf that's getting good wind. I call these feeding shelves. They look like little mini flats off the edges of these offshore pieces of structure. These are absolute feeding bars, places where fish come up, they sit around because there tends to be bait there. That deep wave action with enough wind is felt all the way down to 20-some feet of water. Don't kid yourself. Those bait fish are disoriented. Fish are down there snapping. And it could be, again, it could be a bait fish bite, but a lot of times they're eating buggy looking stuff, right? This could be mayfly hatch fish. So this is where you're gonna wanna be pulling your worms and leeches out. These are fish that could be caught a variety of ways. You can pull spinners on these fish if it's dirty enough water and deep enough. You can jig on these fish. You can slip bobber on these fish deep. But again, that piece of structure, that deep wind structure bite is something I look for when the wind really starts cooking.
All right, now Joel is gonna share a few really key characteristics for finding a good lake to chase down walleyes in summer.
So good lakes, you know, there's a lot of different lakes you can fish this time of year, but some of the best ones that I find are lakes that are versatile and diverse enough to have a variety of cover and structure. I'm looking at the kinds of places that are gonna have good deep rock, some shallow sand, weeds. It's gonna be big enough to have shoreline bites. These are the same lakes so often that we open up on. These are the medium-sized, even large-sized windswept walleye waters of the north. These are places where you need a little bit of diversity in that cover, because as the wind comes, as the warm weather comes, you're gonna get different bites that pop off in different regions. I always have a lot more fun fishing lakes like that, because so often those are the ones that really challenge me, right? There can be multiple bites going on at the same time, but as an angler, it's your job to kind of sort through those variables, check out different parts of the lake, find what parts of the lake hold fish, and then feed them different looks to be able to kind of cycle through the bites that work out best. Again, I spend a lot of time on weeds, I spend a lot of time on those deep saddles and that deep rock when I get wind. That's really just kind of a hit list to make sure you track down when you're fishing these kinds of lakes.
All right, that's about all we got for you in this video. Special thanks to Joel for sharing a bunch of really good information. If you enjoyed this video and you learned something, make sure to hit that little red subscribe button down below, because we have a lot more awesome content coming in the future. And until then, we will see you in the next one.